Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds, and we're back to break some more thrones, and last time, well, no big deal or anything, we just so happened to kill a freaking dragon? Well, kind of, sort of. We happened to come across this town that was, on fire and whatnot, and we at least fended off the dragon Keltullis that we had heard about previously, and for what it's worth, I had thought for the longest time, because I am aware that Keltullis is a card in Gwent multiplayer, and I thought that it was the most significant card from the Thronebreaker set. I assumed the Keltullis was the final boss of the entire game. So when I heard mention of Keltullis when we first arrived in Markham, I assumed, it'll be a little bit of a tease, a little bit of foreshadowing here. And, maybe some brief cameo appearances or additional references to that dragon, but wouldn't be until the very end that we actually encounter it. But no, just so happened to come across a random town, and there is indeed a dragon right there. But the people of this town, who we have saved, at least temporarily from this dragon, have asked us the small favor of going a little bit up north of here, I believe, and finishing the job. Which is totally something that you would ask a random passerby to do for you, because that's not even something that witchers would do, as we talked about last time. So it's a little ridiculous that we are just going to wander on over there, happen across this dragon that was terrorizing this town, fend that off, and then go in and actually attempt to kill it in full. But that's the plan, at least in theory. The encounter that we did was very interesting. I think it's probably up there, competing with the Manticore, back from when we were in Lyria, as my favorite encounter. That one might still be my favorite overall, but this might be number 2, and so I don't know what to expect for this next one. That's another shrine, which the one we're neutral morale, but we could potentially use the high morale for this encounter. I think maybe we'll at least try it out. We'll see how we fare, and if it seems like we need any and every advantage we can possibly get, then we can go back to one of these shrines and pray there to give ourselves a bit of an additional advantage, or we could opt to hold off on this and come back on a later occasion, which I assume we should still be able to do if that is of need, because, well, our setup here, still a little questionable. Not the best. Just curious to see what we have on this side. But as we were saying before, we still recently lost our Rayla card, of course, when she, we did kick her out, but not without reason. But we really have not modified our deck since then. So, not sure if we're going to get any additional cards to add to our deck to make it more effective in the near future, in which case maybe making those changes could make this encounter a little bit easier for us. But, I mean, we've got to give it a shot at least, right? This does, I believe, appear to be the spot right here. So let's go for it. What could possibly go wrong? We'll just casually waltzing up to the dragon's lair, right?
Keltullis' lair was indeed impossible to miss, as would stand to reason, for any space capable of containing a dragon must be enormous. The lair's maw, a black triangle cut out of a vast plain of snow, loomed from afar. Confirming the dragon's presence was the powerful odor emanating from it, one of sulfur and blood.
Well then,
Gascon said,
ready to become a legendary dragon slayer?
Yeah, well, we're about to find out, right? On second thought, guys, let's run. Cut it. No thanks. This is a terrible idea. There is no way we could feasibly take down a dragon. I don't know what anyone was thinking is what a more logical person would say, but nah. We're going in.
My father oft said, never should you count pelts till the hunt is through.
Meve said, dismounting her horse.
It's all the more true when you hunt dragons. He's wounded, yes, but one puff of flame, and we shall be not legends, but corpses. Leave all thoughts of foolhardy bravery behind.
Yeah, kids, don't try this at home.
The Lyrians crept across the dragon's threshold. They walked single file, shields raised, watched by bats hanging from the ceiling. Keltullis lay curled up on a bed of diamonds and gold coins turned red from his blood. Seeing how he strained merely to lift his massive head, Meve knew the dragon no longer posed any threat.
I don't know if I would go quite that far. Maybe at this very instant, that might be the case. But, it's still a freaking dragon, okay?
Come to finish what your poison began?
The monster croaked hoarsely.
Fine. Do it then.
Keltullis turned over, exposing his vulnerable underbelly, and waited calmly for the fatal blow.
Oh, snap. Okay. Not exactly what we expected to see here, I don't think. Of course, we did fight it. We did fight the dragon Keltullis previously, but I guess I kind of assumed that dragons, being the extremely powerful and intelligent beings that they are, in case you didn't know, yeah, dragons, they can talk, and they are capable of critical thinking and reasoning. For all I know, they might even be smarter than humans in many cases. But, it does very much appear to be... I mean, the poison, I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Did we poison it? I thought we just fought it in a more traditional sense. But, I had assumed that it was going to heal off those wounds fairly quickly, and so when we got back here, we were going to have to fight it once again in just slightly different circumstances. But no, that does not appear to be the case. Ooh, and so we have two options. So simple. Or is it? Kill the dragon. Waltz right up. Job's done. But hold on. Might we be able to learn something else from speaking to the dragon? I mean, technically, what do we really owe to those people who we just saved the lives of back in the town? We fended off the dragon already. Yes, they asked us to go kill it, but if we can maybe negotiate with the dragon, maybe we can get the best of both worlds? Not really sure what it means to attempt diplomacy with a dragon, but I guess it's worth trying, right?
Wait,
Meve said, dropping her sword.
what poison?
Right, that's what I was saying.
Keltullis laughed while squeezing his bleeding side in pain.
So they didn't tell you? Lousy munchkins.
Oh?
Hey! Watch your tongue!
Gabor yelled.
Sides, I didn't ken anything about it.
Keltullis looked the Lyrians over mistrustfully with his snake-like eyes, then began to tell his tale.
Okay.
The caravan Meve had met on the road was different to the others. This time, Keltullis's meat had been pickled in a special brine, one spiked with poison. As the dragon lay curled up in pain, Ferenc dwarves entered his lair and smashed his face.
So if I understand correctly,
Meve interrupted.
you're female.
Correct. Same as you.
Okay, it's kind of weird to say that at the end, but also kind of knew that already from multiplayer. So I was a little surprised when I first heard people saying that Keltullis was a he, but remember that we had heard that apparently there was a bit of a tense, but at least perhaps somewhat neutral state of affairs between the dwarves and Keltullis, in which they both coexisted, and basically the dwarves gave offerings to Keltullis, treaties of sorts, in order to keep Keltullis happy, and in return Keltullis said, sure, I just won't absolutely massacre all of your villages that are right next to my lair. Which is why, when we first encountered Keltullis there and saw that she was setting that entire town aflame, was rather surprising, because supposedly they were on decent terms at least. But the reasoning for it is, they poisoned one of those offerings, and seems like it was pretty strong stuff. Obviously, Keltullis was still capable of fighting, to a certain extent at least, but very much, at least now, it's not doing so well. And then they were so bold as to come in and destroy her eggs as well. And I mean, as if poisoning her was not enough. So what was the intention? Was the intention to just slay her altogether? And upon seeing the eggs, they realized, oh, that could mean numerous additional dragons, and so got to get rid of those as well. And initially, I would have thought that if anything, the intention was to, I mean, maybe this is the intention, once Keltullis and Keltullis' eggs have been destroyed, come in, steal whatever it was we were hearing about, some gold and silver, or whatever shiny things she has stored in this lair. But, I mean, not having heard this much detail from the dwarven perspective, kind of just sounds like they're merciless killers. Especially when they had basically a peace treaty. So that doesn't sound very good on the dwarves' part. Does kind of feel like they very much crossed the line there.
As if on command, all Lyrian eyes turned to Gabor.
Can you look at me? We didn't peek under his, its tail.
If I may,
Reynard interjected.
these revelations about Keltullis' sex are undeniably fascinating. But I'm more curious why the Ferences stooped to such a dishonorable deed.
That's easy enough to guess.
Meve said.
They were afraid the dragon would soon demand more tribute to feed its young, so they decided to strike preemptively.
I see. They found out that Keltullis was going to have, I mean, I don't know how much we can read into this little illustration here, but maybe as many as 5 dragon babies, and those little dragonlings were maybe going to require that Keltullis acquire a little more goods, and the dwarves just didn't want to pay up. And so, rather than doing so, they took matters into their own hands.
To the Ferences' misfortune, they delivered 2 smaller doses of poison. Infuriated at the sight of the broken eggs, the dragon gathered its strength and flew to the nearest town. Meve saw for herself what happened then. And now it was up to her to decide how this story would end. The dragon had killed dozens, perhaps even hundreds, but had been provoked first by the dwarves' heartless cruelty.
True.
Did it thus deserve death or mercy?
What a choice. What a choice. Okay, so at the very least, by taking the time to speak to Keltullis, we have learned a whole lot more about the situation. Definitely not what it might have looked like initially when we first came across that town. So we can either follow through with our initial plan, coming in here and slaying the dragon, but, as we were just hearing, maybe the dragon is not so much at fault. I mean, like, obviously, there was quite the reaction on the dragon's part, but very much provoked. And so, we do have to pick a side here. Okay, this is interesting, though. If we look at least the phrasing here, the phrasing is not kill the dragon versus basically let Keltullis turn around and wipe out all of Mahakam because they did her wrong. It's let Keltullis heal and leave, and perhaps leave them alone, which I think might be the best neutral option here, or at least the Keltullis was provoked, yes. So, by that account, the dwarves are certainly not 100% in the right. Keltullis, I mean, for 5, let's say 5 dragonlings were destroyed, and by some accounts, you could maybe say murdered. And, so it's not exactly a small crime. Poisoned her as well. So, the dwarves, I don't think we ought to just waltz on in here, slay the dragon, and go, oh, yeah, no, dwarves, you're totally fine. No, we won't bat an eyelash at you for having poisoned the dragon, destroyed all of its young, and not told us about this, and just expected us to do the dirty work for you. Yeah, that doesn't sit very well. And if we can have Keltullis basically heal, leave, then maybe we can put all this behind us, and Keltullis can hopefully start anew elsewhere, and as long as the dwarves don't proceed, or whoever it is who's in the same general vicinity of wherever Keltullis reestablishes herself, as long as they don't poison her, destroy her hatchlings, or eggs, maybe things can stay relatively peaceful. Because this is eye for an eye, and this is, okay, maybe cooler heads can prevail. So I think we go this route.
When judging my subjects, I would sometimes not know who bore the greater guilt.
said Meve.
But as ruler, I had to reach a verdict, often a harsh one.
The queen returned her sword to its sheath.
This is not my land,
Meve said.
nor are these my subjects. I don't have to choose the lesser evil.
Meve!
Gabor hissed.
Prover will be furious.
But if Keltullis leaves, then that's not so bad from the dwarf perspective either. Keltullis has a safe place to, I don't know, maybe raise the dragonlings away from the dwarves, or at least away from Mahakam proper, and the dwarves no longer have a dragon that is living on their mountain with them, making them presumably considerably safer. I forget if was Keltullis fighting off other monsters and helping to protect Mahakam? I don't remember if that was the case or not. In which case, there is actually some additional benefit to having Keltullis here beyond just, well, I mean, there really wasn't much benefit other than just the aspect of making sure that she didn't turn around and destroy them. But, that's, I guess that's not really a good thing as much as that's just not a bad thing when she's not destroying you, but you know what I mean. Anyways.
Let him. And you, dragon, swear me this. When you heal, you shall leave Mahakam and never return.
You've my word. And my gratitude.
Meve was about to leave the cavern when the dragon blocked her way with its tail, then gathered a smattering of valuables at the queen's feet. Each would be the prize of the Lyrian crown jewels.
Oh. So yeah, honestly, maybe Bruver gets mad because we didn't kill the dragon. It was never really our responsibility to kill the dragon for you. We kind of said we were going to a clan of dwarves who, I mean, are under Bruver, but it's not like we promised directly to Bruver himself. At no point did we ever do that. And by having the dragon leave, we are still making the situation better for them. I mean, Keltullis presumably is not about to do it right now because Keltullis very much still needs to heal, and so they might say, well, you're just going to take the dragon's word for it, and to that, they do have a point. There's always that chance that we have this conversation now, but Keltullis does, in fact, once having healed, turn around and destroy all of Mahakam in rage and seeking out revenge. But, I mean, we can't really hold Keltullis to that, but I think we just proceed, and in theory, at least, it really is the best of both worlds, and if Bruver takes issue with that, then honestly, sorry, buddy. There's nothing we can do about that. You're just getting all upset for nothing, because we just rid your entire city of a dragon. So, you can thank us later.
News that Meve had spared the dragon, which had killed dozens of dwarves, did indeed enrage the inhabitants of Mahakam. The Ferences in particular. But when the clans
I can see that
considered
from
driving the Lyrians
narrative
from
standpoint.
the pass, Elder Vavrenek opposed it. No matter what happened after, he had sworn Meve his undying gratitude.
Was Elder Vavrenek the leader of the Ferences? I mean, again, we fought off the dragon initially. Let's not forget that part too. We fought off the dragon. It was not our problem to begin with. The dwarves instigated it. We fought it off, and then we also negotiated a way for the dragon to leave. What more could you ask for us to... Oh, I mean, yes, you could have asked for us to destroy it, but in the absence of us being here, things would have been exponentially worse for you. We have made things so much better. Maybe not exactly the way you wanted them to play out, but so much better than if we weren't there. So if you want to complain about that, then they're falling on deaf ears. Those complaints falling on deaf ears. Okay, so there you have it. Not exactly the way that I expected that confrontation to play out there, but an interesting one nonetheless. And it also did occur to me, at least the thought crossed my mind, that this might be the exact situation that Isabel was talking to us about before when we first recruited her, when she had said, I'll join you as long as you don't force me to kill anything. And it seems like in this situation where we have the option of choosing either mercy or, well, a rather brutal form of justice, that might have turned her away from the group as well. So I can't say that definitively, but it really sounds like this is exactly the kind of situation that we predicted we might find ourselves in at some point in time, and so we might have dodged a bullet there as well by choosing to spare Keltullis. But as we were just hearing, yes, at least the rumor around town among all the dwarves is probably that we are not exactly as friendly as they might have initially expected us to be. Thought we were after we saved them. I mean, we still saved them, and they would all be dead if it weren't for us. So again, it's just like, guys, you're being unbelievably petty. But I think we carry on. I mean, we could maybe see if there's anyone here back in town for us to talk to. That bridge also looks so much like it's about to collapse behind us, or while we are on it. So that's a comforting sight. Anyone to chat with? There's this, but I'm not sure we any reason why we need to go anywhere. Also, we did get a boatload of gold. I mean, that was not really something that I predicted would happen, but we are now absolutely loaded and could presumably afford quite a few upgrades. But I think at this stage, we might be looking at, again, just seeing if we're going to get any new cards from encounters there, or anywhere here, or perhaps part of me was hoping that maybe if we had slain Keltullis, we might have gotten some of the dwarves to join us, but alas, siding with Keltullis, we did not. But if we could get one more unit that's great to add into our deck, and maybe it requires some shuffling around or some upgrades of some variety, that might be the thing that we opt to spend our resources on. I mean, maybe it's worth a quick look at least, see what we have as options, because it has been a while since we last looked. Probably looking at the workshop, because once again, we find ourselves in that situation we found ourselves in Edirn, where there's that chance, that arbitrary rule that we created for ourselves, that we would not craft any cards. Maybe we can still stick to that, even through Muhakam here. And, I mean, thus far, we've made it through a somewhat sizable chunk of it, being able to do that. So that's somewhat promising. But we technically don't have enough cards in our deck, as we've, I think, seen previously. But we can exit and lose the changes. And would increase the max number of trinkets. We can afford that. I imagine there's probably something that is exorbitantly expensive that we could afford now that we weren't able to afford before. Mess tent, we could actually do both of these. That's another reason, for what it's worth, why we've deliberately saved, or at least the initial reason why we opted not to just run straight in and craft all of the cards we wanted to craft, was because we knew that if we waited until we made upgrades to things like the mess tent, then long term it would cost us less resources, and so that would mean long term we'd have more resources to spend on either additional upgrades over here or just getting more of the good units when it comes to crafting cards. But I think the most expensive stuff is here to increase our recruit cap. Because, we actually cannot afford this. We're quite close. We are quite close. And we had that option to trade wood for gold, wasn't it? Back at the Dwarven Trader a few towns back. And it was a little bit of wood for a lot of gold, I thought. And so I don't think it's this much. But it honestly might get us very close. So I don't think we rush into doing that just yet, because few encounters more, and we could potentially make that happen. This is another thing that would help us with, not having crafted any units yet, or any additional cards yet, for directly putting into our deck. That means that each card that we create is going to be that much cheaper. We've already we will save 10% on gold, or potentially 25% on gold from here on out. Interesting. Don't remember seeing these before. That's also an option. Options for additional cards to craft. Yeah, this could be interesting, especially because we have basically not used any recruits thus far. Initially, it looked like they were going to be the most valuable resource, the hardest to come by, but because we've been so stingy with that resource in particular, since it's only being spent on the occasional encounter, and of course, from creating cards, and we haven't created cards that require them, then we could potentially exchange a bunch of recruits for other resources and load up on other upgrades. So, long term, all the benefits are starting to build up, and the longer we wait, the more they will build up and start to give us some positive feedback loops. And I don't think it's urgent just yet. That was mostly just a means to check what the current state of affairs is, but we don't exactly have anything impassable, no impossible situations for us to overcome that require that we make those changes, at least not yet. But we know what our options are now. Let's cross the unbelievably rickety bridge. I cannot believe that it did not get destroyed in some way, shape, or form. Oh! Okay, a little bit of gold, a little bit of wood. Ideas on this letter found. Langscouth. A lens that makes an object appear more distant. Spud scope. A subterranean periscope used in potato cultivation, and I love the name. Double gaff. A two-sided fork. Okay. Onyxolia. Snowshoes for horses. Can also be used as rackets. Okay. Cluck-clucks. Booties for chickens. Lumiam. A lamp derived from fluorescent tubers. Huh. Okay. Some of those things bear some resemblance to things in real life, I suppose. Oh, just 6 wood. And 6 wood only. Well, that's lovely. That's just great. At least that one came with some gold as well. Do have this new fast travel spot. And just to check in, this is, I would assume, one of the last places before this main quest encounter over here. Mahakam, despite the map itself appearing quite large, because the pathways are so thin and windy, it's not very densely packed, at least certainly not in comparison to what we saw over in Eddern, where it feels like, comparatively speaking, we are zooming through. So I think there is a point of interest down there in town. We might want to check that out. There are also some people up there and some resources. Is that worth taking a look at first, maybe? We can obviously take this. For more of those recruits. Exactly at 300 now. What?
Never, ever whistle in the mines.
Okay.
Now hold on. Pour you some hoots first. Makes for merrier marching when things get frosty.
Oh. Okay. We just got higher morale for that. Okay. Just thanks, I guess. And the town board will inform us of some additional stuff. So yeah, I figured, given how there was this area down here, that there'd be something of interest. It's a battle. Notably, battles, compared to puzzles, the battles do require, most of the time, that we use our own deck. And given how, as we've said previously, our own deck is quite weak at this point in time, this could be challenging, whereas the puzzle, pretty much 100% of the time, yeah, 100% of the time, has given us a custom, pre-made deck of some variety, oftentimes, of course, with alternate rule sets, and so this one, even if our own deck is not so great, could find ourselves still capable of finishing this, because it's purely up to our own skill and know-how. I have no idea what this point of interest is, or this one, for that matter. So there's at least some stuff before we make our way over to that main quest spot. But maybe we poke our head down here and see what's going on in this part of town. Love the name. Don't love the situation it looks like these guys are in.
Meve squinted, the better to see the scene. Several dozen dwarves had gathered on the cliff overlooking the chasm. All were turned towards a ramp, at the peak of which stood a barrel.
What is that gathering about?
Asked the queen.
Have we a feast day?
Nay,
Answered Gabor grimly.
'tis an execution.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, remember that part where we got the high morale? Something tells me that's about to go away.
A hairy head peeked out of the barrel. The long, pointy nose and ears left no doubt that it belonged to a gnome. The first Meve had ever seen in her life.
Oh.
Save me!
The gnome yelled.
They aim to kill me! Cast me in the chasm!
Shut your maw!
Barked the dwarf standing next to him, who then shoved the gnome inside the barrel and covered it with a lid.
Your crimes! The sheer weight of him, eh? No lighter punishment is fitting.
The other gathered dwarves nodded approvingly. Two gripped the barrel, lay it on its side, then lifted it to cast in the chasm, paying the thumping from inside it no heed.
Hold on just a second. What exactly are these crimes? I mean, yeah. Saw this one coming. Either just turn around and pay no mind to what we just witnessed, and that doesn't feel right, or intervene on behalf of the gnome. I mean, we don't really know what the gnome has done here. They claim that it's some kind of heinous crimes, but it feels like we ought to at least check, see if that is in fact the case, and if not, then maybe we will be the gnome's defense lawyer.
Meve leapt from her horse, and ignoring Gabor's objections, scrambled up the ramp.
Oi! You're not allowed! Hey, damn it! What do you think you're doing?
Just saying hello, really.
I think it's obvious. Preventing the execution.
What's the gnome's eye?
Ah! Ah! Thanks be to the gods!
Whoa, wench, you've no such right. Judgment's been handed down. Sentencing's done.
Okay, I mean, that doesn't sound like our prospects are very good right now.
Yes, and a cruel sentence it is. One that prompts me to wonder what the accused did to deserve it.
No, that is true.
Better to ask what he didn't do, the varmint.
You didn't really answer the question, though.
Arrived here with his peddler's wagon full of tricks and gadgets. Went from house to house, praised his rubbish to the high heavens, and what's it he sold us? Bombs that go off in your hand. Beer growth formula that makes your hair catch fire. Music boxes for the kiddies. Once cranked, they never plowing stop.
Okay, the first part, the bombs that go off in your hand, that's no good. That's definitely a crime. I'll give you that. The beer growth formula that sets your hair on fire, also not exactly the safest thing in the world. That's also probably a crime worth punishing. The music boxes that don't ever stop is a humongous nuisance, don't get me wrong, but executing someone for that component at least, probably a little too much. When they started the argument by saying, well, it's what this person sold us, I was like, okay, well, did you just get scammed and now you're trying to execute the person for it? It's kind of overkill in more ways than one.
You needed but to loosen the screw in the back and...
Shut your maw, ye roaster. Doesn't it matter all that? 'Cause we'd have forgiven it if he hadn't broken our sacred rules and hallowed customs.
Which ones, if you don't mind me asking?
Enter the smithy, cap on his head, held nails between his teeth, and poured fruit syrup in his beer. Raspberry. Blech.
Oh. And that's why this person is being executed?
just the once, and but a few drops.
You got nothing to explain your villainy, scoundrel. Not a thing.
Yeah, see... The first part, much stronger argument. That last half, not so much.
And that's not even the worst. Saved his highest crime for the end. he was in a mine, and he whistled.
No. We just heard that is the worst crime in all of Dwarven society. Except that, okay.
Oh, that's bad. Shouldn't have done that.
Hi, he did. Whistled through his teeth and hummed in harmony a long warble. We all heard it up and down the shaft, and our grand elders were clear. Death's the punishment. Death by barrel roll.
Do a barrel roll! Someone had to do it. Okay, let's see. What are our options here? The punishment, cruel and unusual, yes. Not commensurate to the crime. I mean, the first part, with the bombs exploding in people's hands and setting people's beards on fire, maybe not a death sentence, but probably deserving of some kind of punishment. The putting raspberry syrup in his beer, probably not worth any punishment. I know it's a sacrilege to the dwarves, but you know, and then whistling the mine, that's a thing, right? That's at least some kind of rumor, isn't it? Is there some credence to that? Is there a reason why that's a thing, that you're not supposed to whistle in a mine? I mean, this whole canary in a coal mine thing, is it supposed to be that it's potentially making it harder to verify as whether it's safe in the coal mine or not if you're making canary-like sounds, and you might be giving a false sense of security, making people think that it's safe, when in truth the canary is actually dead, and so people should be getting out of there as quickly as possible? That might be it. So I'm not obviously, it seems like they're overreacting to that last part significantly as well, but there might be at least some basis for that accusation and that rule. So, let's see. We can say punishment is cruel and unusual, not commensurate with the crime. Crime may have existed, but this is no way to treat it. Can ask for clarification what exactly the crimes were, or we can buy freedom for 500 coins, honestly, after having acquired as many as we just did. Wouldn't necessarily rule that out, although I might like to try to find another way if we can. Or do what you must, what your laws require. This seems like, basically, this is the opposite of this, where you just say, alright, whatever. Do it if you think you have to. So, definitely not this. But I think we at least try to get some more information, or I don't know if he's just going to repeat everything verbatim. Maybe we get some additional insight.
Wait 1 minute. What exactly does the Four Dwarves Codex say? Which stricture did he violate?
What did... How's it a witch and a human one to boot know about the code?
Oh, okay, now we've got him on the back foot. We're getting somewhere.
This human wench has a head, and a capacious one. Well, have you an answer?
The code says thus. 'Tis a crime most grievous to whistle in a mine. Any dwarf committing the cock-up shall be placed in a barrel at once. Said barrel then to be rolled down a mountain.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty cut and dry.
Any dwarf?
Oh!
The situation's clear. If my senses do not deceive, the accused is a gnome.
Very clever, Meve.
Aye, but the code's not to be taken literal, like. It's to be interpreted. What the ancient elders had in their heads, why, that's got to be divined.
You sure about that?
Nothing to be divined here. You got to be a dwarf, not no bloody gnome.
See?
So, am I, meaning I'm free to go?
I'd say so, yeah.
Perchance we ought to let the Elder-in-Chief rule on the matter.
Uh-oh.
Oh, aye. Oh, for we all ken how old Hoog loves being bothered with such things.
Ugh, fine. Now get the hell out of that barrel and out of my sight, you hairy hamshanker.
My lady, I haven't a way to thank you.
Success, I think.
That we've yet to discuss. Perhaps first we should learn each other's names?
Yes, of course. What a brat of me. Barnabus. Barnabus Beckenbauer. To friends, BB.
For what it's worth, I thought I remembered. I might totally be making this up. I thought I remembered that somebody on the CD Projekt Red / Gwent specific team, that might be their name. I thought it was like the music person in charge of the music. One of the people in charge of the music was named that. I might totally be making that up. Somewhere in the deep recesses of my mind, I thought I remembered hearing that name came up. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
Meve, Queen of Lyria and Rivia.
Queen? Cows in the corn, Calamy honoured. Your Majesty, obeisance due.
None necessary. Protocols for use at court, not beyond it. An inventor, you deem yourself. Am I right?
Of perhaps some rather annoying inventions.
Most assuredly. Though, truth be told, the dwarves saw no ingenuity in my craft. Seems I'm ahead of my time.
Yeah, kinda, sort of, but not really.
Fiery bursts in the palm of your hand. They shall be in fashion one day, to your mind.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, me. I'm not seeing it.
Oh, nay, just a bit of misfortune, that's all that was. You see, I mistook mercury fulminate for saltpeter. The vials stood beside each other, see, and...
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
The details I need not know. But one matter I am curious about. Could you construct a bomb that would explode when desired? For instance, beneath my foe's feet as they stepped over it.
Alright, now that could be useful.
Of course I can. It's simple.
Alright, now we're talking.
Why then? You wish to show your gratitude? You must join my ranks. Assist me to defeat Nilfgaard.
Ah, okay, now we're talking.
Defeat Nilfgaard? Pure ambition, that is. But I'd have been a barrel of broken bones at the bottom of a ravine, if not for you. I'll do what you ask to pay off my debt.
There you have it. Barnabus Beckenbauer has been acquired. This deck has been added to your army and can be found in the command tent. That is exactly what we were just saying we were looking for. Also, the animation is amazing. I feel like... So he's a Thronebreaker card, I assume, in multiplayer as well. His card exists in Gwent multiplayer. But at least for the Thronebreaker specific set cards for Gwent multiplayer, you can only get the animated versions from unlocking them in the various chests that we found along the way in Thronebreaker. And so some of them are not that common to see the animated versions of. And it's not that common of a card to play in Gwent multiplayer. So I don't think I've ever seen his animated card before. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's amazing. This is like top tier animated premium cards. Up there with Temerian Drummer, for those of you familiar with Gwent multiplayer. I love it. Amazing.
And thus, for the first time in Lyrian annals, a gnome enlisted with the army. And though Barnabus Beckenbauer was diminutive of body, this new recruit would prove his worth on more than one occasion.
Okay, I hope so. I guess that's a good sign. Out of the Sizzlixer into the fire, the name of the achievement that we just picked up, or something like that. Why don't we chat a little bit with the people in town here, and then we'll take a look at what exactly Barnabus does.
Well, a damn shame. What with such good visibility today, too?
Oh.
Well, a damn shame. What with
Okay.
such good visibility today, too?
Let's maybe get out of here real quick. And why don't we take a look at the card of Barnabus. Oh, and Barnabus in here as well. What would we like to do first? Why don't let's talk to Barnabus first, and then we'll learn what exactly Barnabus does from a card standpoint. Does...
Your
There you are.
Majesty, allow me once again to express my undying gratitude.
I mean, we were just talking about how we could perhaps use some additional helping hands on our side of the battlefield, and so timing could not be better.
You're most welcome, Barnabus, but please, we haven't need for any formalities when speaking alone.
Well, of course. How might I help you then?
Let's see. So, yeah, mostly just looking to learn a little more about you.
I like to know. No, I must know who I travel with. Please do tell me about yourself.
About me? I've most civil relations with dwarves, as you saw. But is there anything in particular you'd like to know?
Are we talking positive relations with dwarves? I mean, that last encounter was, you weren't exactly on the best of terms with those dwarves.
Why not start at the beginning? Tell me where you hail from, perhaps.
Oh, right. I was born in the distant south, in Tir Tokhair. My mother was a washerwife, my father, an armorer.
I'm not sure where this is. I mean, Nilfgaard is to the south. Fair bit to the south, but is that in Nilfgaard? Otherwise, what we've gone... Lyria and Rivia of all the northern realms are pretty far down south, right? We've gone east to Edirn, and maybe north to a small extent.
Soon as I'd passed 40 winters and could strike out on my own, I left the family, my native parts. So I've been on the road now about, 20-odd years.
Okay. And again, not really sure what the average lifespan of, as we had said previously, dwarves and now gnomes are relative to humans. Like 40 years out with the family and then 20 years by himself, making him 60. It sounds like, by human standards, he'd be pretty old. But maybe presumably that's normal for gnomes, and maybe they have longer lifespans.
Indeed. A rather long while. Did the south simply not suit you?
Oh, I wouldn't say that exactly. It's just staying would have meant stepping into my father's shoes. Then forging blade after blade, plate after plate. Oh, just thinking on it sets my head a-spinning.
Okay, so, yes, Barnabus may be an inventor, but he's definitely not an armorer, not a blacksmith.
Not for me, that, no. No, nature. The world so rich in mysteries, in wonders left to discover, and ways to make it a better place.
Okay.
By building bombs that explode in the hand, for instance.
Right, exactly.
As those bearded fellas say, Mahakam wasn't built in a day. Besides, nobody was seriously hurt by those malfunctions. Not many, at any rate.
Oh, I hope not. Okay, well, what are you working on now?
At the moment, have you any invention you've worked on? One that's near complete?
Oh, so kind. Oh, wonderful, you should ask. See, I've ever had an avian fascination. For birds, you see. Their wings, bones. The structure's perfect. The aerodynamicism, the plumage. In short, I believe I can fly.
What?
I beg your pardon?
Yes, I'm learning to fly. Fly. You've not misheard. I, Barnabus Beckenbauer, will be the first gnome... Oh, what am I saying? The first mammal to free himself of the soil's bondage and soar to the clouds.
Alright, we're just gonna ignore the fact that bats are mammals. But other than that, we're just gonna make our way back home and learn to fly.
But aren't bats also...
Yes.
A detail. This is no time to be petty. No, but frankly, my preparations are far advanced, and I'm rather optimistic about my design and prospects. I've calculated every trajectory, every force. It all works out. Just need to do a few more field tests.
Okay, you have a test dummy for those field tests, or are you doing that all firsthand? Yeah, it's a little concerning.
Did you have volunteers try it, or did you test the design yourself?
Naturally, I must stay on the ground, who take all the measurements elsewise. Luckily, there's no lack of thrill seekers in Mahakam. Most eager to etch themselves into the annals.
Oh. Okay.
My first prototype, the Sky Licker, I dubbed it. Oh, your majesty, if you'd only seen the beauty. Flew over 120 Ls.
I have no idea what that means.
Truly. Colour me impressed indeed. He must have made quite the name for himself, your brave volunteer.
And then he
I'm
probably
certain he's caught
crash
the eye
landed
of
and
every
died.
she-dwarf in Mahakam since.
Yeah, that's definitely what happened, right?
Oh no, he's dead.
Right.
The landing, it was rough. And then a bear sauntered by, didn't help any. Anyhow, as he died...
And then the
dwarf
dragon
swore
arrived.
He regretted nothing. Brave lad. A bit daft, though.
I see. But the next time you request I try one of your inventions, I'd ask you to remind me of this touching tale.
Yeah. Okay. Farewell for now, then.
Time I attended to other matters.
Ah, yes, you're still here. Off you go, then.
Alright. So there's a little more from Barnabus. And, Nicker's just... Oh. Just hanging out there. But let's take a look at what the card of Barnabus does. Here it is. Create a trinket? I mean, that's fitting. Oh, the sound effect, too. It's too good. It's too good. I love it. I love it. Alright, create or spawn one of 3 randomly chosen cards from a specified faction and from neutral cards, unless otherwise specified. Okay, so we'll have a choice of 3 trinkets, and there's some trinkets that are definitely better than others. Not all trinkets are created equal. Not only that, but some are just much better suited for some situations relative to others. Like, for example, if we happen to get Skull, and we don't have any units in our graveyard at the time, then it's completely useless. But you get some of that risk mitigated by having at least 3 options, and hopefully that means that on the whole, you'll at least get 1, maybe 2, unlikely to get all 3 solid options, but, you know, a little bit of a dice roll. But hopefully it still works out, and, I mean, we do technically need to include 1 more card in our deck, and only 8 recruit cap points for it, so it's pretty cheap to throw Barnabus in. So, obviously we're gonna do it. The goat alone makes it so that we really have no choice in the matter. You knew it was gonna happen as soon as you saw my reaction to that animated card. It's amazing. I love it. Hopefully, Barnabus pays off, adding him to the deck like that. And we did find a way to successfully save him from, well, getting executed, even without having to resort to paying that dwarf 500 gold, which is a lot. We have a ton of gold right now, so it maybe doesn't seem like a ton at the very moment, but in the grand scheme of things, that's still a decent number. And now I'm kind of curious what would have happened if we had tried going any of the other routes. Like, there's obviously the paying route would have presumably worked, although maybe the dwarves would have scoffed at us and shoot us off and proceeded anyway with the execution, or maybe taken our money and still done it. In which case, worst case scenario. But then also, I assume if we had just turned around and left and said, do what you need to do, then the execution would have taken place, but obviously wouldn't have Barnabus with us. The one about, what was it, the seriousness of the crime not matching the seriousness of the punishment. I don't know if that would have just been a side conversation and then would have subsequently led to us having to choose between the other remaining 3 options at the end of it, or if that would have concluded in them saying, oh, well, according to us, absolutely, and therefore there's no stopping us, we're just gonna do it, and we're gonna ignore you. Maybe that was the case, so, well, good thing that we chose the option that we went with there. But anyways, I think this is a good place for us to wrap up here. Not only did we spare a dragon in Keltullis, and hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us later on, but we also managed to save the first gnome we have ever encountered, Barnabus. So with that being said, I'll catch you next time.